So, how does Google give feedback for new Google apps? Even before internal testing among employees or dogfooding, each app goes to the Google User Experience Review process. The goal of this process is to get the app in front of experienced Googlers who focus on various parts of the user experience, such as design, interaction patterns, accessibility, and more. As we looked into productionizing Sunshine, we wanted to get some expert help with a UI that would both leverage a broader set of implementation skills than we were able to present in the first course, and begin to illustrate material design concepts. Of course, we turned to Android UX legend Roman Nurek, who has helped many Android developers improve the UX of their applications with direct feedback, develop design tools to make constructing Android UX easier, and who has contributed Dash Clock and Muse to the Android world. Roman, it's so great to have you here with us. Now, when you first looked at Sunshine from Android Fundamentals, what are the things that you felt worked really well in the design?
So let me take out my phone and just point them out. So I think that the first thing that was done really well was just the use of hierarchy, or the overall hierarchy of the screen. You have your branding on top, and then you have the most important piece of information, the current conditions and weather, at the top as well, in this kind of nice big display type. And then below that you have the secondary information, the forecast for tomorrow and the next day and so on. That was one. I think another that was done really well is the use of keylines. So keylines are essentially these invisible vertical rules that you can use to align streams of information. And I felt like specifically the use of that second keyline, the one where you have the branding, the current temperature, the dates of the kind of later forecast. Those are like kind of left aligned to that second key line. And I feel like that is really nice in helping visually process the information very, very quickly. So I felt like those were probably two of my favorite aspects of the existing design.
Tell us a bit about what you redesigned in the new production version of Sunshine, and why.
Well, I think I'll just talk about one. I think that there's one that's really important here, and it's an essential part of material design, and that's the use of surfaces. So the first is I felt that, well, with surfaces, I guess, in the existing app, you kind of, I guess the use of surfaces was all over the place. On portrait, phone screens, on landscape tablet screens, it wasn't really consistent. It felt like information was being presented in different ways. And what's worse, on landscape tablets, you actually had this kind of massive sea of white space, and the information was kind of floating on top of that. And I felt like the use of surfaces could really help both manage that white space and introduce consistency. And so in the new design, we use this single elevated white card to present the current conditions of the current temperature, right? And we use that consistently across phones and tablets. And so that does three things. The first is that, again, it introduces consistency across screens. The second is that it actually makes it easier to do motion. Another big part of material design is motion. It helps you do things like transition from list to detail. When you can kind of have a single object that appears in both and transition them, it's really nice and easy. And I guess the third is it really kind of helps you manage space. On that landscape tablet screen, the fact that you can have this kind of nice big card to present one major stream of information and kind of have everything else fall in from outside of that, it makes it really it makes a nice use of space, I guess. I mean, just very bluntly, it's a really nice use of that massive screen real estate. And so it does those three things really well, I think. And that's one of the things that we really focused on in this redesign for Sunshine.
Wow, tons of great feedback. Like we expected, we have a really good start, but there are some rough edges to work through before we have a production-ready user experience. So, how does that constructive feedback map to our production quality goals? Well, the design feedback we got around consistency, white space, and motion fall under Enchant Me. Those little details can really make Sunshine stand out. When you combine that with the suggestions Team Fixit has made, such as under Simplify My Life, having Sunshine display useful information even when there's no network connectivity or poor user input, and under Make Me Amazing, having Sunshine open up new, extremely useful ways of getting weather information front and center, we have some pretty good ideas about how to start getting us closer to the production of Sunshine.